Hey, everybody, this is Bob Goodwin, and welcome to another episode of Career Club Live. If you're not familiar with Career Club, we're using proven sales and marketing methods to help folks find a career that matters to them. Please check us out at career.club. Today, we're really pleased to have joining us today Chris Hurley. Chris is the VP of Category Strategy and Shopper Marketing for Penrod Ricard. So without further ado, Chris, welcome.
Hello, Bob. How are you doing today?
I am doing excellent. Thank you. Where do we find you today, Chris?
Today, I'm in sunny, exotic Cincinnati, Ohio. And where else would you rather be in early March?
All the cool kids are in Cincinnati, Ohio.
You know that
Me too. Come on. Yeah. So March, what do we have? 70 degrees. Now it's 40 degrees. So we'll figure it out soon enough.
Just
what did somebody say? If you don't like the weather in Cincinnati, just wait an hour. It'll change.
Yes, that is exactly true. And I think it's going to be 30 degrees on Sunday, and it was 70 degrees last Sunday. So
I don't know about that. So anyway, it's great to have you. Thank you so much.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. So as is our wont, we usually do a little icebreaker section to help folks get to know you a little bit better. So without wasting any more time, let's jump into that. So where were you born and raised, Chris?
I was actually born in New York City, actually in the Bronx. And when I was a child, moved out of the Bronx and out to Queens. And so grew up as a city boy, went to high school in Manhattan. So true New York City all the way through up to college.
Awesome. And it sounds like Cincinnati's moderated your accent a little bit.
It has. It depends on how late the night is and, my mood, if you will.
Yeah.
I get a little upset. So the New York in me comes out.
There you go. Got it. And then where did you go to school, Chris?
I went to Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana. So
wow, no, that's not Manhattan anymore, is it?
Nope. A little less to do, but it was a lot of fun. Great education, great time, met some great people, and kind of how I got in this business too. So it worked out well.
No, Notre Dame's a great school, of course. And then just a little bit about your family, Chris.
I got a wife for, believe it or not, 30 years. We got married when I was 12. We got 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. My son is at Penn Law School. My other son is in business. This business he's in corporate sales, corporate partnerships for Philadelphia Flyers. Cool. My youngest is a daughter at University of Dayton, studying psychology.
Go Flyers. Come on. You have 2 Flyers, Philadelphia.
2 Flyers, exactly right.
Come on. That's cool. And then just a little bit, if you could sort of paint the scene of your career arc and how you landed at Penrod.
Yeah, so at Notre Dame, I met really one of my best friends, DJ Romano. Their parents owned the largest Gallo distributorship, non-Gallo owned in the country, called Romano Brothers Beverage Company. And started out there as a distributor, as a merchandiser, sales rep, carrying a feather duster and a box cutter in my pocket, one of those situations where you got a degree from Notre Dame and you're rolling around retail stores, dusting bottles and cutting boxes of Carlo Rossi open and building up wine displays. Dad was kind of wondering how I'm going to pay those school loans off doing that, but a great way to learn the business. And they were a great company, Romano Brothers, and getting that Gallo sales training really was a great lift for me for my entire career. So I did that for a few years, went to work for the winery. And then after being at the winery for a few years, I moved to Iowa to run the state of Iowa for Gallo, and then moved to Indy with Gallo still. And then Dr. Pepper came a calling. At the time, they were Dr. Pepper 7-Up. Yep. Now they're, I believe, Keurig Dr. Pepper, but in between they were other names. But great company, great brands. I was there for 9 years in a variety of category management, sales roles. Then Campbell's Soup came a calling, so went from sugar water to sodium water. And great company again up in Jersey, and again a variety of roles: shopper insights, Catman, strategy, sales. Got to check a lot of boxes with a lot of great people. Did about a 9-year stint there, and then Penrod Ricard knocked and said, "Hey, how would you like to come back here, run the wine and champagne national accounts team?" And so I did that for a few years. COVID hit. And the game completely changed. As you know, we realized we need some certain centers of excellence. On-premise was struggling, and we need more insights. And how does a shopper evolve into all this? So we built out a shopper marketing team, and they asked me to build it out from scratch, which was a pretty exciting opportunity. And I've done that now for the last 2.5 years.
No, that's awesome. We're going to really look forward to diving into your expertise on that in just a minute. Last question, and I'm going to guess the picture behind you might telegraphed the answer, but what do we find you doing when you're not at work? What do you like to do?
I do enjoy golfing. So like everybody, I'm a self-deprecating golfer. That's what we all have to say. I'm not very good. But in truth, I'm actually not very good. But I do love golfing. I played fairly regularly, a lot of customer golf back in the Carolinas. And then my kids became of age where I wanted to coach them a bit. So when I wasn't traveling, I was coaching them, gave it up for about 10 years and now back at it. God help anybody who's around me when I'm swinging, but I like to golf. Love sports, played a lot of sports when I was a kid, anything I could play. And then, like I said, I really enjoyed coaching. And now due to various injuries and onsetting arthritis, I think it's best my sports is limited to sitting on the couch and watching people who know what they're doing do it. So,
okay. So then 2 questions. Favorite golf course is what?
Augusta is it to me. There's so much magic there, and I actually got to go there twice with some customers, and it exceeded all my expectations both times.
Cool. And your favorite golfer?
My favorite golfer, this is a bit controversial. It always had been Phil Mickelson. Because I always saw him as kind of a man of the people, and I maybe drink that Kool-Aid a little bit, but I just love that he never could get over the hump, and then he did get over the hump in a big way with some clutch putts, and so I really loved that, the way he got the crowd riled up. I got to follow him because it was very rainy in Augusta, so I was like 6 feet from him for 18 holes, and he was chatting us up the entire time. So I was like, wow, this guy is actually really as he's advertised. But then, recently there's some things going on that coming out that made me have a second guessing who I'm going to go for. So I don't know, maybe look at Justin Day or somebody like that. So, but Phil is the guy for like 15 years I really rooted hard for.
There you go. All right. So yeah, and I thought you could say live golf, but
that's why one of the reasons why Phil's got some issues in my world.
So let's kind of jump into the talking shop part of this. For folks who aren't familiar with Penrod Ricard brands, well, I'm sure they're familiar with the brands. They may not know the company name. What are some of the top brands people would know that you guys have?
Yeah, people think Penrod Ricard, they don't really know what that is, but they're actually 2 pretty big brands, Penrod and Ricard, globally. But here in the U.S., they're hard to find. Penrod Ricard is obviously the partnership of 2 individuals named Penrod and Ricard. But here in America, you know it best as Jameson, Irish whiskey, Absolute Vodka, Kahlua, Malibu rum. We've got several great bourbons, Rabbit Hole. We've got Jefferson's. We've got a good tequila lineup of Altos, Navion, and we recently made a big acquisition with Codigo, the tequila. So a lot of brands like that. Plus, we have a great wine and champagne portfolio at GH Mum and Perrier Jouet and Campo Viejo. So those are some that may be a little less known, but some of my favorites. And then at the up front, people say, "What do you work for?" I usually with Jameson, Absolute, and Malibu would be like, got it.
Got it. There you go. So Jam. If you can't remember anything else, Jam, right?
You're right.
Jameson, Absolute,
Powerhouse brands.
There you go. So the kind of the core part that we're going to talk about today, because you introduced me to a term a few months ago that I wasn't familiar with called OmniPop. And so I was wondering if you could just, first of all, just kind of at a high level, explain what that is.
Yeah. And
then maybe we'll break it down a little bit.
Yeah. So OmniPop, it's basically at Penrod, we look at the shopping journey in there's many facets to it, but you have pre-pop, which is before they walk in the store. So pop is obviously point of purchase. So how do you interact with the shopper before they walk in the store? At pop is what happens at that point of purchase. And then post-pop is how you engage a shopper after the point of purchase. The alcoholic beverage shopper is very, very fickle. In fact, churn rate is about 2/3. So even some of our biggest, best brands, they might not come back and do a repurchase for a year. 30% repeat rate, essentially. So that tells you that people, though, you've got some loyalists, they're going to roll in. They can say, I want my Jameson. This is what I drink every month, and nothing's going to change me. But the majority of folks experiment, try new things, and a lot of switchability. So in order to build that brand buyer relationship, we need to hit them on every step of the journey. So pre-pop is how we talk to them digitally, via the media, getting their attention, getting on their radar, initial brand awareness. And then at pop, shopper marketing, which is essentially what my team does. We're charged with making sure that we're converting those shoppers who are ready to buy our brands, but also getting the attention of those who are unsure or thinking about buying one of the competitors. So obviously displays, shelf talkers, stances in the front of the aisle, in front of the store, but also almost 2/3 of people now are making decisions at Pop based on mobile devices. In fact, 63%. So knowing that, there's a whole digital component that's involved. So at Pop or shopper marketing is not just physical. It's not just the shelf talkers. It's not just the displays. It's the digital elements. How do we hit them with the right reviews, with the right coupons? They're going to be doing some price comps. So how do we make sure we're engaging that shopper in the aisle? And then the post Pop to convert. And then the post Pop is, I bought my drink. Now, how do we make sure they feel good about that? Right? How do we get them to come back so they don't switch to one of the other guys? That's the post Pop piece. So it's a big circle. And so it's pre, at, and post. And it takes a lot of folks to make that thing happen.
So let's break this down a little bit. That's super interesting. So with the churn, just so we all have an agreement on what we mean by that, I'm going back to the vodka category. So I might have bought Absolute the last time I bought vodka. And what you're saying is what 2/3 of the time I'm going back to the category, but I'm going to switch brands.
And maybe not even switch brands, maybe just switch to another subcategory. So you see this, especially high in the bourbons, right? Which probably is not a surprise. You got folks experimenting, trying new things. We've got Jefferson's is a terrific bourbon, and we've got a very loyal set of shoppers. But because it's so unique and we've got some great flights, you got people coming in, they try it, and then literally they'll try something else the next time they're in the store. And so churn rate, essentially, the way we talk about it is within a given year, how many repeat purchasers do you have? So Irish whiskey is typically in the mid 30s. And then that means 2/3 are opting out. So again, it's a brand thing sometimes. It's also sometimes it's a subcategory thing, especially you see now seltzers and all these other things and, pre-made cocktails. These are things, hey, let me try that instead. So it's really about how many options there are out there today versus just 10 years ago. And and how much more education there is. It lends itself to a more experimental consumer.
Yeah, it reminds me of quick serve restaurants where just varieties, actually, just restaurants in general, where variety is actually one of the appeals of the category. So just a little bit of higher retention or less churn in your language, right, is actually very significant because we get that one extra trip, that one extra purchase. That they can make all the difference, particularly in a longer sales cycle. Depends on how long, right, that bottle of alcohol is sitting in the cabinet.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
It might get a little dusty, or maybe it gets consumed very quickly. Depends.
Right.
But just a little bit of improvement is a lot of difference in sales.
Yeah. And because of that, our strategy is really to try to recruit more households. So, it depends on the category. And I know in soup, we always wanted to have them drink more soup, right? Yeah. We want to be responsible. We want to encourage people to drink that Jameson faster, right? That's not really a noble objective. So what we say is, hey, drink that Jameson, drink it responsibly. And when you're ready for more, come back for Jameson. But we want to recruit more households. So when you think about like even Applebee's quick serve restaurant, their menu, it's just monstrous. I mean, you open the thing out, it's like a novel, right? So where do we even begin? Which can be a little bit much sometimes. But if you're looking for variety, you're going to go to Applebee's because you can get 38 different types of things. Yeah. And so with our team, and that's why we made some key acquisitions with our organizations, because we want to make sure we're bringing more households into our portfolio.
So listeners who know me know that I've got a pretty deep experience in panel data. And what you're talking about, and this, I'm not trying to go off on a panel data discussion, but I remember when I was working with Wall Street analysts, and this was a bit of an education because they were very used to point of sale data, right? Which is a measure and it's interesting for share and stuff like that. But what we were showing folks is kind of like there's only two ways at some high level to grow a brand. And you just hit on it. You either sell to more households or you sell more to the same households. Those are kind of your two choices. And what you're saying is, we're just trying to extend the user base of our products. That's where the win is. And then, as you say, just sort of, morally or ethically or whatever, like we're not trying to, see how much alcohol we can make one household drink as much as can we share the love across a broader set of households.
Right. Expendable consumption, a term with which you're very familiar, right? Soft drinks, total expendable consumption, soup, as many expendable consumption. The old joke is the one category it's not expendable consumption is toilet paper, right? Pretty much everything else is expendable consumption. But we don't, that's not our objective here at Pernod. It's like recruiting more folks into the group. And then the folks that are in it, making sure they stay with our brands and give them every reason to do so.
Yeah, and just for listeners who may not be familiar with the term expandable consumption, soup is a great example where that's why they're always giving you recipes on how else you can use cream of mushroom soup or tomato soup or whatever, so that you buy more soup because you've got more reasons to buy more soup, right?
Exactly.
Or, in soft drinks, it might be used as a mixer sometimes, or other things where you might have different usage occasions for something. Alcohol, maybe a little less. So I think that's a really fair point that you make. So in pre-pop, now you said that, what was the percentage that you said, Chris, of people that already know the brand that they want?
So during 2020, we did some research and the number came up about 60%. Now that's during COVID, right? We've gone back and, we have a phenomenal insights team. They've gone back and said, okay, what does it look like now? That number is about 48%. So 48% of shoppers, when they walk into a store, know what brand they want to buy. Now that doesn't mean they always buy that brand, but they've got a pretty good idea, and they're pretty much, that's what they're going to do, 48%. It's a pretty high number. That also means that 52% don't know what they want when they walk in. So, how do we hit those 48% pre-pop in the right way, and then at pop convert them? And then for those, the more than half that don't know what they want, how do we hit them at pop, right? And so there's several ways. 85% of those folks say they're influenced by a display, but 15% say display is their reason for purchase. So that shows you display is a big thing. That's not a shocker, right, to those of us in the business. But it's not as big of a thing as maybe many of us had thought, or maybe it's evolving. In fact, 80% of shoppers now say that shelf cues is the number one primary driver.
What's a shelf cue?
A shelf talker, a wobbler, something to get your attention at the shelf, essentially. Mm-hmm. Now, the shelf, of course, is where most of the brands sit, right? But it's also crowded. How do you stand out there? But if you can sit out at the shelf, most decisions by the shopper are made at the shelf, not at the display. They're made at the shelf. How do you win that spot at shelf? And that's one of the things that we really focus on going forward as a team is, yes, we want those displays, but we know retail realities say there's not that much display space, right? So how do you get that display space? But in the majority of the times where you can't because of opportunities, how do we win the shelf?
So speaking of the shelf, not that I've got extensive experience in the liquor store, but my observation is like, and maybe this is where the term top shelf comes from, but like premium is higher and then kind of middle tier. And then the cheap stuff is at the bottom.
Yes.
And then sometimes it gets a little linear. So left to right, it might be like in ascending order.
Yes.
How do you guys think about that? How do you recommend?
Yes. So it's really that's meant to be a kind of a shopper guide, if you will. So like if you think of it intuitively and you're walking in now, remember, we're trying to make it easier for the shopper to find what they're looking for, right? Yeah. And when you walk in, especially if you're new to the category, it's overwhelming. It's like, oh my God, where do I even start, right? So, okay, I can do the math here. They're going down the shelves as they go down in price, or they go on left to right. Like it's a shopper cue was the intentionality. The other fact is if you're a retailer, do you want to sell the least expensive stuff less? Yeah. So then you're going to probably put that at the bottom shelf. Mm-hmm. So it depends on who you're talking to as far as the original driver was of that merchandising technique. But there's two benefits to that. It's you can sell more higher margin, higher revenue items if you're at the eye level or at the top than you do for lower revenue at the bottom. And then you make it easier for the shopper to find what they want. So we believe in grouping things, that way and by subcategory. So the biggest thing is if you in an ideal world, we'd have all Penrod Ricard products together, right? from a merchandising standpoint, the distributors go in there. They're the ones that are merchandising for us. It's nice and easy. It's tight from an efficiency standpoint, but that doesn't make any sense for the shopper. If you have an absolute vodka sitting right next to Jefferson's, that doesn't make any sense. So you put the bourbons together, you put the vodkas together. Sure. Then once you get within that subcategory, okay, how do I navigate this thing? Oh, I navigate it by price. And sometimes that's usurped by having the big hitters at eye level. Sometimes they just say, okay, no matter what the price is, put that at the eye level.